Are you feeling stuck under a manager who doesn't see or perhaps doesn't want to see your potential? Maybe they know you are performing incredibly well, but keeping you where you are benefits them. Or maybe they are not growing themselves as well, and that lack of development is holding their entire team back. Sometimes it's not even about you or your manager, it's the system. Restructuring, hiring freeze, no new investment, no promotions. Everything above feels frozen. And the truth is, you are seeing this everywhere. High-performing directors trapped under stagnant leadership layers, and top talents left waiting for opportunities that may not be available for the next few years. But that doesn't mean your progress has to stop. In this video, we'll talk about how you can keep advancing and making real progress towards executive levels, even when leadership is not really lifting you up. And I'll share practical steps and real examples from what actually works. And you will learn my experience from helping over 100 clients progressing in their career, combined with my own experience having had 2 vice president roles at the largest Swedish companies by market cap while managing international relocation, family life with 2 young children, and a full-time working husband. Let's get started. First of all, why so many capable professionals find themselves stuck in middle management and what it really takes to move beyond it. If you're watching this video, probably you have been with your company for years, maybe even over a decade or 2. You build deep organizational knowledge and you have broad network across the group or entire division. And you also have a track record of great results. For a very long time, it paid off. Every 2 or 3 years, you grew, you got promoted, you took on new responsibilities. But now it's been 4 or probably even 5 years in the same role. You are still performing at your best, you deliver beyond expectations, but nothing is really moving. You probably have tried a lot. You raise your hand for strategic and stretch projects outside of your job description. And you have career development conversations with your manager, your HR business partner, probably your skip level manager as well. And sometimes you got good feedbacks, but every answer feels really vague in terms of your next step. You often hear this: once you finish this mission, and we will discuss in the next performance review cycle. Or you are doing great, just be patient. Or even you are still too young, your time will come, just wait. At first, you stay optimistic, but as months turn into years, frustration grows inside of you as well. You start to feel overlooked, even invisible. It becomes a vicious circle. The more you push, the more resistance you face. You can feel it too, because the one-on-one meetings with your manager used to feel encouraging and you could be open with each other. Now they're a bit dry, transactional. You tell yourself, let's just stay positive, be grateful. But halfway through another year of back-to-back meetings, deadlines, and travels, the reality is there. You're not learning, you're not growing. You are on autopilot. Even though you stay professional, you lead your team, you keep your energy stable, inside it's getting more difficult. You know your job inside out, maybe too well. You could do it without much effort. And that's not fulfilling anymore. Meanwhile, inside of you, there's this voice. You've got maybe less than 10 of your best years left in your career. Are you really going to spend them here, executing on decisions made by the others? You know you can be more and do more. You're ready to contribute more, to make strategic decisions, not just executing. And you want to have more income as well to support your family, especially your kids and their education. But the opportunity is just not there internally. And the longer it stays that way, the more confidence you lose. You become disappointed and discouraged because of the lack of progress. This isn't about career growth anymore. It impacts your ambition, your confidence, how you show up outside of your work as a parent, as a friend, as a partner, as a spouse. Here is the reality. In large global organizations, this is a struggle no one talks about openly. Most managers are not bad people. They're just comfortable. They don't know how to sponsor someone who's outgrown themselves. Or maybe they're stuck in the same slow-moving system as well themselves. And you know the system I talk about, where promotions are frozen, constant reorganization, and cost-saving measures take priority, and no one wants to rock the boat. Let's just be honest, waiting for things to change rarely works. You keep hearing all the familiar lines. You're doing great, just keep doing what you're doing. Once the project wraps up, let's revisit your promotion. And as well, each time a small part of you wants to believe it, but deep down you know those conversations are just repeating patterns. Before we move forward, let's pause here because once you recognize that your boss might actually be the bottleneck, the next question becomes, what do you do about it? How do you keep growing when leadership is not really lifting you up? And that's exactly my next point. Now I want you to imagine this. You don't have a good manager. Let's prove it. We run a survey across your entire organization about your manager. And the results come back. Your manager ranked among the worst leader in the entire organization. You've just proved you're right. They don't actively promote people. They tend to protect what's familiar. They prefer to keep strong performers like you where they benefit the most rather than supporting their advancement. So you are right. Congratulations. So what now? Do you stop growing? Do you accept that as your ceiling? Do you let that define what's possible for yourself? If you really think about it, because this is the moment where most people give up. They say things like, my boss is blocking me. If my boss doesn't support me, what can I do? And that's the trap. That's the moment you hand over your power. If you follow my channel, you are very likely in your late 30s or early 40s. This is your absolute prime time in life and in your career because you have the maturity, the clarity, and the proven experience. And you will never get these years back. Are you really going to let your manager, someone else's limitation, dictate your future? Are you going to let their lack of growth cap yours? Because here's the truth. The ones who've made it into the top of your company or any company, the group CEO, the divisional president, they don't wait for the perfect conditions. They don't wait for the right boss, the right reorganization, the right market, the right economy. They decide that no matter what's happening around them, they are going to keep progressing. I've been there myself and I know exactly what it's like. The feeling of being stuck, of wondering if your effort even matters. But this is the moment you make a choice. Do you want to be the person who at the end of your career tells your kids, I had a bad boss and that's why I peaked when I was a director in my 40s? Or do you want to be the person who your team looks up to when you've reached the C-suite? The one who could say to your team, I made it despite restructuring, despite slow economy, and despite having a manager who wasn't supportive. And here's how I did it. When you live from that mindset, you become unstoppable. You stop reacting to circumstances and start to take control again. And let me share a story with you. Audrey worked at P&G for 17 years. His life was completely disrupted by the war in Ukraine. His wife also worked for the same company. While they both had stable jobs, their lives were divided between two countries for more than 3 years. The endless commuting, the distance, the exhaustion. If I use his own words, it was just chaotic. But then Andre made a decision. He took his life back into his own hands. Today, he's leading the largest monolith factory in Europe, the third largest worldwide. But more importantly, his family is finally reunited, and his new role allowed him to relocate to the country where his wife lives. His income also doubled. He is doing really fulfilling work again. Now that's far more complex than having a bad manager. That's about life throwing something far bigger at you. The war, the separation, the uncertainty, and still he chose to create a new path. He didn't let circumstances define what was possible for him. He decided to take control. And I highly encourage you to watch his case study video. It is incredibly inspiring. He's a real example of what's possible when you stop waiting for things to change and decide to be the one in charge. You don't advance because of your manager. You advance despite of your manager. You don't succeed because it's easy. You succeed because you choose to. So let me ask you this. Are you going to keep waiting for the stars to align, or are you going to become the person who makes alignment happen? Because if you wait for everything around you to look right before you move, you will be waiting for a very, very long time. If you decided today that you no longer want to wait, that's you are done giving your power away. And that's when everything changes. The moment you take ownership of your growth, you step into a new, different energy. Because you start to think, act, lead like the person, the version of yourself you want to be. And that's the kind of energy no manager, no company, no circumstance can hold you back. Here's the truth, and you knew it. You are not your title. You are not your boss's perception. You are not your circumstances. You are your standards. The standards you set for yourself determine how far you will go, how you show up, what kind of impact you want to make. And I want to tell you about Andreas. For over a decade, he was deeply loyal to his company. He never even entertained a recruiter call because he believed in the company, in the mission, and in the products he helped innovate. He told himself, I'll grow here. I don't need to look outside. And for years, that loyalty really served him until a major restructuring hit. His role was made redundant. Overnight, everything changed. Andreas had poured his passion, his leadership, his best years into that company. He was proud of the work he did, especially being in the biotech industry where his contributions and innovations had real impact on improving human lives. He didn't just lose a job, he lost what felt like part of his identity. At that moment, he realized that he had built his entire career inside one ecosystem without developing a network or opportunities outside of it. Now, here's where the story turns. Because instead of letting that setback define him, he decided to turn it into a reset. He took ownership of his career path. And today, Andreas is the vice president at Roche, the #1 organization in his field. He's leading an incredible initiative, the next generation system that's transforming how labs work, combining smart modular components, faster workflows, and even autonomous robotics to make diagnostics more efficient and reliable. How amazing! In his own words, this is what he said.
I was craving for this. I was aiming for this impact, for this seniority, for this exposure for many years. I was always in the talent pool for this VP level. And now really seeing that it became possible to the growth journey I've done in the last months is extremely rewarding.
And this role allows him not only to move to Switzerland with his family, but also contribute to something that will impact millions of patients globally, while also finally living life on his own terms. Because these vice president roles in large organizations, they are rarely published for application. And Andreas didn't have a network inside of this company. What he had was resilience, clarity, and set of strategy to position himself. This is not about luck. This is about leadership, self-leadership. Yes, the game is unfair, like Andreas said in his case study. And yes, sometimes the system will not reward you when you deserve. But that doesn't mean you limit yourself, lose your confidence, or stop playing. It means you play smarter, you play differently. You make yourself so prepared, so intentional that no circumstance, no reorganization can define your potential. And if you want to see what that looks like in real life, you want to watch Andreas' case study video. It's incredibly inspiring. It's such a powerful example of how you can turn a setback into a setup when you decide to take back control. So I want to challenge you here to raise your standards, not to prove to your manager or the manager of your manager, not for your company, but for yourself. The higher you grow inside of you, in your mindset, in your presence, in your clarity, the faster everything around you begins to align with that version of you. That's when you realize success was never about escaping your environment. It was about elevating yourself beyond it. And maybe right now you're thinking, so the only solution is to find a new job? Well, not necessarily. There are plenty of success cases in our community where people repaired relationships with their current manager and got promoted into senior roles right where they were. It's possible, it happens, because when you learn to outgrow your limitation and take control instead of being a victim, everything becomes possible. If you're ready to take that next step, I invite you to book a free strategy call. During this call, we will understand your current situation, your goals, and your organization's potential. And we will design a personalized solution that fits your needs. There's a short pre-qualification process to make sure it's a good fit for both sides. The call is best suited for directors or team leaders who have been high performers and are ready for executive level growth. You are ambitious, globally minded, and open to coaching and feedback. It's for leaders who work in complex, large, international, matrixed organizations who want to build executive presence and influence. And it is also for people who are committed to taking ownership of their career and drive meaningful career change within the next 6 to 12 months. If that's you, I invite you to book a free strategy call where we will talk about your situation. You can find a link in the description below. Now let me leave you with these 2 case studies from Andreas and Audrey, and I will see you there in the case studies.